Hey, welcome back to the Nemesis Gear Steampunked Out YouTube channel. And I'm doing another wand making video for you today. This one's going to be a kind of a special one. This is a special edition wand that I'm doing inspired by the Hogwarts house colors. And it's special because I'm doing something a little bit different for my coloring on this. Our Hufflepuff colors are yellow and black, and for doing the coloring, the tough part out about that is for yellow, I can certainly dye the wood, but it really needs to be a very white wood, and so I am going to use the maple, which I like really well. It dyes nicely and has a really nice finish to it. The problem is that in order to get the black, I'm doing something different. I have really become fond of an ebonizing solution. And what that does is instead of dyeing the wood, it chemically reacts with the tannin in the wood to darken it. The problem is that maple does not have much in the way of tannin. So in order to get the black, what I've done is I've glued together two different woods here. So the white wood that you're seeing is the maple, and that's the part that I'm going to be dyeing yellow. But the darker color wood is a walnut, which has a lot of tannin in it. And as you'll see towards once I start getting the color and stuff on there, it works beautifully with the ebonizing process. So you get almost a black out of it. So just process wise, what I've done, so I've cut pre-measured some wood pieces here that I've glued together and clamped them. Um, and I've done this with some other types of wood too. When it comes to gluing the wood together, you want to use a good wood glue. The thing is that when you're gluing end to end like this, there's a lot of the rule of thumb is not to do that because it's not a strong joint. Um, the fact of the matter is, the glue is stronger than the lignin in the wood. Now it's not stronger than the grain of the wood, but the lignin that runs between the grains, it actually is stronger. So if you have wood that's glued side by side and you split it, it's going to split down the grain before that wood joint is going to split. Now, granted, if it's end to end like this, it is more likely to split at the glue joint, but it's a really strong um, it's a really strong joint. And for something like this, where it's not a tool and we're not going to be putting pressure on this, I don't think that glue joint is really any more likely to break than say the blade of the wand, where the wood is thinner. It's going to be easier to break that, I think. So this glue bond is really pretty durable. Um, and the way that I've cut and clamped and gotten this all done in the past has worked very well. I haven't had one come apart on me yet, but just historically, I'm always a little bit nervous about it. But as you see, I'll spoiler alert: there's no major fails in the wand. During the making process, so it does withstand quite a bit of torture. And as you can see right here, already taken my skew chisel in. I've got this, again, my wand making process. I get it down to the round. I work the blade of the wand down to about the right size that I want, and I start putting that in the chuck jaw so that I have the least amount of wood, unsupported wood, sticking out as possible, so that I have a good straight turn. So now that I've got this in the round, I'm starting to do my handle shaping. And I wanted to do not just, a yellow handle and a black shaft. I wanted to add that black accent color kind of throughout to really tie it together. And I will be doing some wood burning on this, and that's going to help. But in order to ebonize this, I have basically three pieces of walnut that I've glued around two pieces of maple, and that's going to allow me to, have different color bands on here. And that does kind of guide my design work when I'm working on the handle. Again, like sometimes when I'm making a wand, I have some general ideas of what I kind of want to do with the shape. But again, every wand, I really like the wood to kind of talk to me while I'm working on it and just kind of tell me what it wants to be, so I can just kind of feel how the wood's reacting, and what shapes that I can pull out of it, for the design work. And I'm not one to sit down and draw out my wand ahead of time. Maybe if I was, doing these with, hand tools and not on a lathe, I might, do that more. But on the lathe, sometimes you just have to feel, how the wood is reacting to the tools, and stuff like that. And sometimes if you're getting a lot of chatter, or vibration, then you kind of change up your design a little bit to kind of minimize that, so you don't end up with any broken wands or anything like that. And knock on wood, I have not broken a wand in the lathe since my very first started my first couple of wands. And I learned real quick how many wands you can do without sharpening your tools. Um, for me, that was about 3. Of course, I was working with oak and stuff, which really dulls the tools faster. But yeah, keeping the tools sharp, really important. Ever since then, I've just not had a problem with breaking the wands. And my wands are rather thin, compared to a lot of the ones that I've seen. The shaft, the blade of the wand, the narrow part that goes towards the tip, the blade is going to be no larger than a Sharpie marker, a fine point Sharpie marker, and it does taper even thinner towards the tip. And I do that so that these will all fit in my wand holsters. And the grip itself at the largest is maybe 3/4 of an inch, um, in diameter. It's a little bit smaller than that. So, just a really fine, refined, elegant wand. Um, they're not going to break if you drop them or anything, but yeah, you don't want to sit on them or anything either. So, um, but that's why you have a wand holster, so that you don't run off and leave it, um, or sit on it or something. Uh, so now, yeah, I'm just continuing to work this shape down the way I want it. I'm doing the pommel right now, out of the walnut wood, and starting to get pretty thin on there. Um, Getting this nice and round and centered is really important, to make sure that I don't have any chatter or vibration. When you start getting this thin, that's when it will break. And we've got that just a little tiny spool at the very base for support there. And then we do a whole bunch of sanding, which again I have spared you on this editing, and have edited out quite a lot of sanding. In fact, the whole video is sped up to 400% to save time, and I still think we ended up with like 16 minutes of video. Um, but yeah, so I'm getting the final shaping details and stuff, where I want them. Uh, and I did like the shape of this. Um, and then I'll do some final sanding on this. And as you can see, that's right. I am friction burning this, and a couple of these friction burns are right at that color joint. Right where the glue seam is, and I had no problem with that. They burned normally. There was no um, weird vibrations or threatening to crack or anything. So those glue joints are very strong. Um, and then we'll finish sanding this up, and I'm going to do kind of a wipe it down. And now I'm going to cut the tenon off, the little spool on the end, and hopefully it stays nice and centered in there, and it did. And you can see that the wand didn't wobble at all. So good centered wand always makes me happy when I cut that tenon off. So, and then we do again some more final sanding, and now we are going to prep for the wood burning portion. So again, this being a special edition, not only is it multiple colors of wood, but I go in with my pyrography tool and do some design work by hand with that, and I'll wood burn some lines and dots and stuff on there, which is really time consuming. But hey, when we're doing special editions, it's no holds barred. I'm gonna do all of the stuff that I want, and hopefully you'll like it. So now this tip, um, normally I like to use this tip for the line work because when I do any like gold or silver inlays, this allows me to run my paint pen through that pretty easily. With this particular wand, I'm not doing any inlay, just because just black and yellow. There's no gold or silver for this particular color scheme. So yeah, so we got our lines in, and I decided to go with a combination of lines and dots, and the dots are always time consuming, but and I keep saying I'm not going to do them again, but I just like the look of them, so I keep doing them anyway. So now I'm finishing up the top part there, and the next thing I have to do is clean out all the char and get all of the loose, burning, all the loose bits of burnt wood out of all the parts there, and then sand down all the pencil marks. So we'll get it nice and smooth with a final sanding here, and then once that's all the pencil marks and stuff are gone out of that, we'll be able to clean that out once more, and we'll go to the next step. All right, get nice and clean. Awesome. And I have found I really like using this old cotton. This is a sock. It's just a cotton sock. They really kind of does a pre-burnish on there. It really works nice. So now I'm going in with my yellow dye, and I am dyeing the maple wood, and that white wood really shows off, all the different colors that I use really quite nicely. As you can see, the walnut is still kind of a medium to dark brown. And I am now taking the ebonizing solution. You can see how quickly, part of it is just because it's getting wet. But you can see how quickly it's starting to darken on this. And the tannin in the maple wood just reacts absolutely beautifully with this ebonizer. And it gets so dark. And that's one of the reasons I wanted to go ahead and get this video done and posted for you, because I was really thrilled. And you can see here just the first put it on, it just looks a little bit wet, and then as it sits and I keep turning it, you can see how quickly that brown wood starts to turn from that medium brown to almost black. And this is just a couple of minutes, and it's already starting to turn black. And I can compare it to a piece of walnut there that I had just for a tool handle. So now that's done, I'm doing a little bit more cleanup sanding, and I've done some polishing, and now I did the final sanding. I'm doing the burnishing now, and this is going to the thing about doing the ebonizing solution is because it's just a vinegar and steel wool solution, and that does raise the grain. So there's a little bit of sanding that you have to do for cleanup, and then you want to burnish that and get all that wood grain down, because when you get it wet, it does raise that wood grain. So I've done that and got that all nice and smooth, and I am now going in and putting in my linseed oil. Now with these wands, because I'm using the ebonizing solution and it's not a dye, it doesn't rub off. So the wood itself has now turned dark. I can use an oil and wax finish, which I really prefer because it just preserves all the natural look of the wood and still protects it. However, the yellow areas are dyed, And so what I've done is I've taped that off, and you can kind of see the tape here. I've taped it off, and the handle I have put a clear coat on, and I'm going in. I put multiple coats on this, and between coats, I lightly sand that with a really fine sandpaper, and then I put multiple clear coats on the dyed part because that's going to protect that yellow dye. It keeps it from rubbing off on your hands and you know, staining anything. And so it does. The clear coat, it does add kind of a plasticky look. It's one of the reasons I stay away from it. But for these handles, as you can see, it is really nice. It's super glossy, and it's glossier than I can get, you know, with just wax and oil. But it does have a nice look to it. I just personally prefer the wood look by itself. Um, so anyway, so that will dry after doing several coats of that. Then I'll go in and finish doing the wax finish on the blade of the wand. And as you can see, actually I have several I was working on. So this is the final result, and you can see the handle is just a little bit shinier than the shaft, but you can see how black that turned out, and I really like that. It worked good on both of the wands that I tried the multiple woods with. So, and I do have a final photo here. That shows pretty good on what that looked like. Again, this is just wood burning. The dye is done on the maple. The yellow dye is done on the maple, but the black is just walnut, and it's been ebonized, so that preserves all the wood grain and the look of the wood there. So I'm really happy with the way these turned out. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you like the new technique that I used. I think I'll be using that a lot in the future. Um, but I do have at least one more video coming up that I'm doing for a Ravenclaw, probably in the next couple days. So make sure you check back. And if you like what you're seeing, definitely give me a thumbs up on there and subscribe to see the next video. Thanks for watching.